Good evening and welcome to the Columbus Common Council's regular meeting, Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. The time is now 6:30 p.m. We are in Columbus City Hall chambers. We have some members of council as well as some members of staff, city staff assisting us via Zoom this evening. And Pat, would you please take the roll call?
Adams. Gray.
Present.
McCabe.
Here.
Pifferone is excused. Reed.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
And Tome is excused.
Thank you. And if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting has been posted with local regarding local state ordinances or state and local ordinances. And item number 4 is to approve the agenda. If there are no alterations, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
McCabe seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Number 5 is correspondence and communications. Due to COVID-19, we've been trying to minimize the amount of in-person comments here at the City Hall chambers. And we ask that citizens wishing to make the public comment email Pat Gable, the city clerk, by noon the day of the meeting. At this time, or by noon today, we did not have any emails, and we also did not have anybody signed up this evening in person. So we can move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the council and committee of the whole minutes from July 7th of 2020, as well as applications for operators licenses from the term or for the term of July 1st through June 30th, July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022. The names of the operators licenses to be approved are Ashley K. Gunther, Rebecca A. McGee, and David G. Erlbecker. Is there any comments, concerns on the consent agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. Moving on to new business. Number 1, consider and take action on resolution number 12-20, resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $1,160 in general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020B of the City of Columbus, Columbia County, Wisconsin. This was originally worded incorrectly, and it was updated and posted yesterday. Is that right, Pat? So Ian at home, I don't know if you have that updated version, but I just wanted to enlighten you. All of the information in the packet was correct. It was just the wording that was updated. So this was previously discussed at the July 7th Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there any questions or concerns regarding the resolution from council immediately? Pete?
At the risk of taking you guys down a road that you've already traveled, just for my own peace of mind, I have a few questions. should I be addressed?
Sure. Yes, we do have Greg from Ellers here this evening where
Okay.
you can address your questions. He's going to share with us also a new updates on the sale today.
Gotcha, thank you. And forgive me, council members, and I'm sure you've probably already gone over this, but since I'm the new kid on the block. So just nuts and bolts of it. So when does this project project to start?
So it's a combination of projects, and maybe the better way to do it is to get the presentation out of the way. Maybe some of your questions will be answered because he's got some information about the borrowing. But
Okay.
Just to answer the question before we jump to him, it was the stormwater project in Second Ward Creek is already completed, and this is to fund
Next
those
phase.
improvements. And then Hibbard Street, which we'll be talking about at the end of the meeting. I have an update on the time frame for that.
Okay, so I think I'll just reserve my time and we'll go with the presentation. If I have any further questions, good to go.
Good evening. So as Kyle just mentioned, these notes were being issued to fund the Hibbard Street project and related stormwater improvements. The notes were sold this morning. We took bids. A total of 5 bids were submitted for these notes. The winning bid was submitted by Bankers Bank out of Madison in partnership with F&M Union Bank here in Columbus. The true interest rate on the notes came in at 0.9246%. So that's 10-year money under 1% in terms of interest cost. The total principal and interest over the 10-year life of the notes is $1,221,808. That is $55,716 less than the estimate we had provided to the Common Council previously. In terms of just kind of the tax impact of this is very comparable to what we looked at when the notes were awarded. All of the debt service for these notes is repaid through the property tax levy. So the levy increase next year as a result of these notes is really quite negligible because you're paying interest only. And then the levy increase in 2022 is about $21,000. And then after that point, your levy for debt service remains stable and starts to decline, which gives the city some flexibility for future capital improvement projects and future financings. As the city has done in the past for its general obligation debt, the city obtained a rating from Moody's Investor Services. The city's A1 rating was affirmed by Moody's. We provide a copy of the rating report. I encourage you to review that at your leisure. It's a good independent assessment of the city's overall financial condition and health of your tax base. They noted your strong financial reserves and liquidity, your favorable location in terms of being in the Madison area, and really just your stable financial condition over a several-year period. So all in all, a good note sale result. Certainly interest rates are very favorable at the moment. We were able to downsize the issue by $10,000, so the final amount that you're awarding is $1,150,000, and that was reflected in the revised resolution that was distributed today by the city's bond attorneys. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Pete?
Okay, so if I read this correctly, and it could be that I read it wrong, it seems that, so let's say we have more money left over after we make the payments for a year. It seems like we have 2 choices. One is to decrease the taxes for the following year or put it in that extra money into the permitted investments funds. Is that correct?
Yes, if you've left over no proceeds, you have basically 2 choices. You can spend them on another public improvement project, or you can spend unspent proceeds and use it to pay debt service on these notes. So those are your 2 options.
So we can pay, if I understand you, we can pay an additional amount just to knock everything down quicker, or is that?
It isn't necessarily a prepayment because the notes aren't callable for several years, but if you had, let's just use an example, say you had $50,000 remaining from these note proceeds, you can spend that $50,000 on another public improvement, or you can apply the $50,000 towards the next year's debt service payment.
Okay. All right, that's what I got. And you answered everything else. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions this time for Greg? Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
If there are no further questions, I'll take a motion to approve the resolution 12-20, which is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of now, if I understand correctly, $1,150,000 general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020B of the City of Columbus, Columbia County, Wisconsin.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 1220.
McCabe seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 12-20, authorizing the issuance and sale of $1,150,000 in general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020B of the City of Columbus, Columbia County, Wisconsin. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, better take a roll call. Pat?
Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. On to number 2, which is consider and take action on mayoral appointments of citizens to boards, committees, and commissions. The mayoral appointments of citizens to boards, committees, and commissions is within the packet. The mayor could not be here with us this evening. He had a planned absence, but in his absence, we are to appoint Andrew Traxler to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is a 3-year term. Reappoint Michelle Wallace to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a 3-year term. Appoint Jason Thielen to the Plan Commission for a 3-year term. Appoint Lori Hackman to Community and Development Authority, which is filling a vacant seat that expires in 2023. And appoint Andrew Traxler to the Columbus Cable Commission for a 3-year term. Is there any discussion on the mayoral appointments? All right, I'll take a motion to approve.
Read motions to approve the mayoral appointments of citizens to boards, committees, and commissions as presented.
Ray seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the mayoral appointments. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and we are going to move on to number 3 of new business, which is consider and take action on the sale of the 1991 Fire Department Ford Rescue Truck. We have Chief Randy Keene here with us this evening. I'll just give a brief description. We did discuss this at the Committee of the Whole meeting on July 7th. Basically, we've recently gotten a new fire rescue truck, and the old one, which is 29 years old, is not needed any longer. And it's gone through the beginning stages of our asset disposal program, where it's offered to other departments, and there was no interest. So now the next step is to sell the truck. In the past, we've used Wisconsin Surplus online auction, and it's seemed to have gone well. And I guess just Randy's requesting the permission from council to sell that rescue truck. Randy, did you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add on my end.
Okay. With that, if there are no questions, Trina.
Quick question from Reed. I believe that there was going to be a minimum amount set for the bidding, just to double check.
We were discussing that, and we're going to put a minimum of 8,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for Randy? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Okay. Okay. Pete's gonna have another go at it here.
Another go at it.
Yeah.
I move to approve the disposal of the fire department's old rescue truck that has been recently replaced with a new truck.
Second?
Second from Reed.
Okay. I have a motion and a second on the sale of the 1991 Fire Department Ford Rescue Truck. Any discussion on that motion? Do I need to do a roll call for that? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. In tandem with number 3, we have number 4, which is consider and take action on the 1991 Fire Department Ford Rescue proceeds to equip the new fire truck. So it was discussed again at the July 7th Committee of the Whole, where it was discussed in that we would take some of the proceeds from the sale of that rescue truck and actually apply them towards equipping the new truck with its loose goods, is what it's described as. Essentially, there's a breakdown in our packets of the items that they wish to buy. This purchase would also be split with the rural fire group, who also helped with the purchase, 50-50 with the purchase of the new rescue truck. So the breakdown is the total for the loose goods would be $10,292.42, half of which would be the city of Columbus share at $5,146.21, which we hope to offset by the sale of the rescue truck. Are there any questions for Randy? Or Randy, did you want to add anything else, or does that sum it up for you?
I think you laid it out quite well. I have nothing to add at this point unless somebody has a question.
Any questions for Randy? Okay, seeing none. Oh,
Katie?
Ian, go ahead.
The only question I still have that I brought up last time, isn't it easier just to pay for it out of our assets fund and not have it specific from this truck, and then the rural fire group pays for the other half? I don't remember us doing it this way with other things. We just put it into the fund and then we pay for what's needed out of the fund. It just seems extra to do it this way.
Kyle?
You would have an option to do it either way. Either way would take an action of the council to expend those funds that are not in the budget currently. So it would come back to another meeting to authorize the funding of these expenses, which were already incurred to get the truck in service. So 2 ways to do it. There's currently one way before you right now that would accomplish that, but we could do it by going back, allowing all the proceeds to go to the asset disposal fund, and then do a draw from the asset disposal fund to pay for these loose goods. But you know, it is the same amount of money moving into that fund. It's just a matter of how it gets there.
I guess it's just one less transaction is what we're doing at this point.
Yeah, the only problem I have is it doesn't say where the remainder of the funds from the sale will go, because it's going to sell for more than 5,000 since the minimum bid is 8,000. It's just so much cleaner to put it in the assets disposal fund and then pay out of it. It just doesn't make sense to do it this way in my mind. The only thing that makes sense is, since it's already done this way and in front of us, it's easier to just say yes and move forward instead of bringing it to another meeting. It's just a lot cleaner if we just put it into the fund and then withdraw what's needed instead of this.
Kyle, can you speak to where the remaining funds would go and how, if that's
Yep, so the remaining funds per policy will go to the asset disposal proceeds. So in the current format, the funds would come in and would be deducted with that $5,000 for loose goods, and the remainder would go to asset disposal. The alternate method that we're discussing would be the entire proceeds go to assets disposal, then we pull money back out of assets disposal to fund the loose goods. It's really the same dollar amounts, it's just in which order you take the money out.
So if this is approved, what you're saying is that they're only authorized to use the $5,146.21, and the remainder goes to the asset disposal fund as it normally would if we weren't using any of these proceeds for these goods.
Correct. You can either subtract the $5,000 before the money goes into asset disposal or after it's in asset disposal. But one way or the other, the money would have to come out before or after to fund this.
Okay. At this point, if there's no further discussion, I think it's safe we can take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the use of proceeds for the sale of the fire department's old rescue truck to fund items needed to equip the new rescue truck.
McCabe seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay. And do I need to do a roll call vote?
I would think
Pat,
so,
would you
yeah.
please take the roll?
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to number 5 is consider and take action on the Carico Water Management Agreement. We do have the agreement here in our packet this evening. We also have Amy Jo zoomed in on the phone to answer any questions for council. This is a renewal. This is also a budgeted item that we budgeted for this year during last year's budget process at the expense of $27,000. We have been with Carico since 2015, and to my knowledge, city staff is very happy with their services. Amy Jo, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, you got it. All right, thank you.
And Amy Jo, there's not been any changes to this agreement, correct? It's just a renewal and there's no changes in language?
Correct, it's renewal, yes. Mhm.
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay, there are no questions. I'll take a motion to approve. If there are no questions, I'll take a motion to approve on the Carico Water Management Agreement.
Alder Gray will move to renew the water management program with Carico Aquatics.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the Carico Water Management Agreement. Is there any discussion on that motion? There's no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy Jo.
Thanks.
Good night. Number 6 is consider and take action on the wastewater treatment plant's roof repair expenditure ratification. Just going to do a little short summary here. So back in October 2019, staff was presented to the committee of the whole with 2 options for repairing 4 roof buildings at the treatment facility. The difference between the 2 options is that the improvements should be grouped in order to use existing budget authority to complete some of the work that in 2019 and leave the remaining work to be budgeted in 2020. So the contract that was presented was total cost of ranging $162,200 to $179,910, and the overall cost, depending on which roofs were completed in 2019 and which were left until 2020. At the time, the consensus was to choose the first option, which was presented by staff, repairing 3 roofs at a cost of $80,600 and leaving the remaining roof to be completed in the year 2020. And the repair of the $80,600 was approved by council back in October of 2019. So, but as the bills were processed, and it looks like as the bills were processed, the roof repairs were completed in 2020. It was discovered that the 2019 work was authorized by council, but the 2020 work was not. And since the work for all 4 buildings proposed to be improved between 2019 and 2020, it was included in a single contract. So basically, this ratifies to separate those 2 expenditures. So moving forward, in order to eliminate staff errors in this regard, it will be mandatory that contracts presented for signature represent the specific council authorization. If there are contracts that represent multiple phases or buildings, that will be done at different times. The council authorization must give full authorization for the entire contract, or an amended contract must be presented which contains only the specific work authorized by the council. The action here requested is that we ratify the expenditure of $89,430 to the Northern Metal and Roofing for the Building 1 roof repairs completed in 2020, and to be charged to the wastewater treatment facility repairs and maintenance expense line. Does anybody have any questions? It was kind of a confusing situation, so if you have any questions at all, please. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll take a motion to approve, to ratify the expenditure of $89,430.
I move to approve the expenditure.
I think it might be best just to, at the back page of this, there's an action requested of council.
Oh,
If you just use that and kind of make that into a motion.
Okay.
I think that'll be most clear.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So that's the option 1.
At the very bottom where it says action requested
Okay.
of council.
Okay, so I
Ratify.
request that provide staff direction on the steps, do as much with the money budgeted for the critical buildings and.
Nope. Oh, sorry, I don't.
So you're probably reading the support material. That's probably the memo that was presented originally. If you go back just,
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yep.
Action requested by the council.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
I just want to say it's my first day.
Yes, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, I move to ratify the expenditure of $89,430 to Northern Metal and Roofing for the Building 1 roof repairs completed in 2020 to be charged to the wastewater treatment facility repairs and maintenance express line.
Thank you.
Muller, Gray, seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? There's no discussion. All those in, do I need a roll call? Okay, roll call. Thank you, Pat.
McCabe?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Adams?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Number 7 is consider and take action on the 2021 budget process. Page. So, Administrator Ellefson has put together sort of a timeline for us that we discussed at the last July 7th meeting, to where we will, just basically, this is just adopting this process and how we're going to go about the budget meetings this year. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, if there are no questions or comments, I'll take a motion to approve the 2021 budget process procedure.
McCabe will make a motion to approve the 2021 budget process.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion on that motion? There's no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We can move on to number 8, which is consider and take action on DPW's administrative assistant job description. This job description was presented to council at the last meeting, committee of the whole meeting at Tuesday, July 7th. I think it's a very detailed description of the job. It was discussed with Zach Naven, who's also here tonight, if anybody should have any questions, because, is Zach on, actually? Sorry. Yes, there he is. If anybody should have any questions for Zach. But I think it's a very detailed description of the position. Questions, comments? Any concerns? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the DPW's administrative assistant job description.
I move to approve the DPW administrative assistant job description.
McCabe seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to number 9, which is consider and take action on claims in the amount of $132,490.06. The monthly claims. Were there any concerns or questions from council on the claims? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the monthly claims in the amount of $132,490.06.
Alder Gray moves to approve the claims in the amount of $132,490.06.
Reed seconds.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? And Pat, would you please take the roll?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe. Motion carries.
All right. With that, number 10 is the report of city officers. I'm going to turn it over to City Administrator Kyle Ellison.
Thank you. Just a few things to mention tonight. Greg mentioned earlier that Moody's completed their rating as part of this debt offering we had, or just prior to the debt offering. And it was very good news that we maintained our A1 rating. And that's a significant factor in how we determine the rates we get. And so with the favorable rates, that had a big factor to do with that. And we went through the rating call, and I think it was a good sign that they saw we were managing to our fund balance policy, and that they saw the underlying strength of our financial positions. So those are all good things, but not something that we can take for granted. So just know that moving forward, we're going to have to make sure we maintain and build that strength back as we go through this next budget and subsequent years. On another note, Finance Director Bob Geenan started last Monday, and that transition is going very well. So we're winding down with Clifton Larson and the interim Finance Director, and in the next few weeks we should be ending that relationship and just handling all the financial duties in-house with staff. On another note, back in May, I mentioned, or I had sent it to the council, an email communication regarding some surplus equipment from the cable operation, and no other departments had a use for that. So this is just basically notification that we're going to be moving that through the process, through the procedure, and we will be listing those for sale. So if you do see any cable equipment from the city of Columbus, that's why it's being listed. And then on the final note I have, and one that's probably worth some attention, we were notified by Forest Landscaping and Construction, which is the contractor for Hibbard Street. And tentatively, they're planning on starting their project here on August 3rd. And so that first week, it would primarily be tree removal, I think the plan would be. And of course, there's a lot of factors still at play. If we get a stretch of bad weather, everything's up in the air, but tentatively, we would be looking at August 3rd to see some tree removal start, with August 10th being the week where you would see the more traditional construction crews move in and start their work. So Hibbard Street is sort of a looming project, and we'll see a lot of work happening in the next month, but definitely in the next few weeks, we'll see it starting.
And since I'm in place of the mayor this evening, I just wanted to share a couple of things. I wanted to give a warm welcome to Pete Adams in his first council meeting. We appreciate your service to the community, and we're excited to work with you. And then I also just wanted to give another warm welcome, officially now a member of our community, is Kyle Ellison, just now officially moved him and his family into town over the weekend. So I'm sure that the city is very happy to, or hopefully the city is very happy to have you. And you're welcome. Yes. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
McCabe seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And we stand adjourned.
Quick question. This time the meeting said that it was for both, when I logged on for the council, the regular and the committee of the whole. Do I need to log out and log back onto the committee of the whole, or am I good to go?
I believe it is the same meeting ID, so it's the same meeting.
Okay, thank you.
There's just a separate one for the. What's that? Good evening and welcome back to the Columbus Common Council's Committee of the Whole meeting, Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. The time is now 7:13. We are in Columbus City Hall chambers. Pat, would you please take the roll?
Adams,
Present.
Gray,
Present.
McCabe,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Pifferone and Tome have been excused.
This meeting has been noticed with state statutes and local ordinances. Number 3 is approving the agenda. If there are no alterations, I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Gray seconds.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's approved. Number 4 is citizen comments. This evening today we've been asking people who would like to participate in citizen comment via Zoom to email Pat Gable by noon on the day of the meeting. We did not receive any emails for citizen comment, nor did we have anybody signed up this evening to speak in City Hall chambers. So with that, we can move on to number 5, which is department reports. In your packet this evening, you have department reports from the police report, the DPW report, the treasurer's report from June of 2020, the fire department's report from June of 2020, the media coordinator's report from June of 2020, and the library director's report from June of 2020. Were there any questions, concerns, or just discussion on any of the department reports? Seeing none.
Actually, I just wanted to say one thing. I was just
McCabe? Yep.
reading the police departments, and I was just happy to see that you were able to disprove the complainant's speeding ticket situation, so that officer, didn't have to try to defend himself without any proof. So that was good to see.
It's good to have the technology that allows us to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, and thank him.
Pete Adams?
I just got one quick question. So in the 9-day stretch, officers responded to 3 opioid overdoses, and the officers admitted Narcan on 2 of those. My only question is this a typical, how often does this happen?
It's very erratic. Normally one maybe every 2 months.
So nothing like trending up, trending down, more steady?
No, not at all. That was just a very notable spike that I thought I would mention it.
Okay.
It's still going on, it's still out there, and all 3 are still on.
Okay, excellent. Good job.
Okay. There are no further questions or comments. We can move on to number 6. Just consider acceptance of a donation from the Eugene Niehoff estate to the fire department. We have Chief Randy Keene available via Zoom call. And there's some Yep, go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say, I think it's pretty much laid out there. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mike McCabe.
Randy, I guess got a question. How much work does the antique engine need, and will that money cover everything it needs?
That's a good question. I've sent out some flyers to all the fire chiefs in the state, sent out an email yesterday on this email tree, and I've got some response from a number of different departments who have had their antique trucks refurbished. And it varies. It all depends what needs to be done. Now, some departments, they want it so that it's running, it's pumping, and it looks nice. That's not what we're looking for. We don't plan to run it. We plan to park it in the new station and have it more or less be a museum piece. So that would be on the lower end of the totem pole. Whether or not the 20,000 will cover it all, I don't know at this time. But I would We've got several years to get it finished because we don't want it done prior to the new station being built, and whether that's in 2023 or if it's completed in 24, we don't want to do it too far in advance so that we have it done and no place to put it. So as far as the 20,000 covering it all, I can't really give you an answer this time. However, I will promote any other fundraising opportunities if anybody would be willing to donate to the cause like this. In a couple of weeks, hopefully after it's all official on the part of the council, we'll have a picture taken from the donor, with the donor and me, to put in the newspaper, and we'll promote any other fundraising for this effort at that time.
Thank you, Randy. I think it's a pretty neat looking truck there you got there, so I think it'll definitely be a great attraction.
As far as the work that needs to be done on it, it's in pretty good shape actually. Back in the mid-70s, there was some refurbishing done on it at that time. So actually, I think it's in really good shape.
Very nice, thank you.
That's a very cool picture that's provided in there of the 1925 American LaFrance pumper, as it's called, right outside the building we're sitting in.
I learned something about the truck today. I found out it's a Halloween baby. I found out today that it was finished on October 31st, 1925. And so in the one picture that I sent, I mentioned that it was, I believe the photo was taken either in 25, the year that it was purchased, or 1927 on the 50th anniversary. Now, there's no snow on the ground in the picture, so I'm led to believe that was probably taken in 1927. And right outside of City Hall, right outside of where you're sitting there, the fire station was located right where the City Council chambers is located now. The floor was obviously lower, but if you look out the windows toward James Street, you can see three sections of windows, and those were the three, lined up with the three different bays in the fire station at that time when it was in City Hall.
Very cool. Okay, so am I seeing consensus from council to just go ahead and move this forward to the next regular meeting for approval? Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you to the Eugene Niehoff Estate for that donation to our fire department. Number 7, consider and discuss sewer use ordinance. It's a language update to reflect industrial discharge permitting. In the packet, all of the changes are highlighted in red, and we have Jason Letha here this evening to kind of walk us through. Hi, Jason.
Hello. Just want to say I have Taryn Null from Rupert Milky online tonight to help with any technical questions, and John is also here. So I kind of wanted to introduce this tonight and kick this off. This has been a project that's been in the works for a little while. The task order actually dates from early 2019, so it's been in process for some time. And the reason it's taken a while is there's a lot of work behind this to identify what industries may have or I guess qualify for these permits and local limits. We've been working very closely with Fall River as well, since they are part of our intergovernmental agreement, and any ordinance changes or adoptions affect them as well. And so what this is, again, just again to re-summarize, is it's establishing the local limits for industrial discharge waste. And so currently there's industries in and around Columbus and that we're serving that do have industrial waste type characteristics that contribute to the plant. And we do have a permit, a general permit that's issued to us that limits what we can discharge out of that treated wastewater. And so for us to treat that, it is a process that's cumulative. When we get a lot of these pollutant loadings in there, it does affect the treatment process. And so as we have more people inquiring about, what can they discharge, we really haven't had a good answer for that historically. Our current ordinance does have a high strength component to it, which basically says if you're, discharging certain characteristics of waste above a certain level, but it doesn't limit that. It just says if you are, you'll be charged in excess for costs associated with those things. And so staff had approached us and some of the past administration, and we discussed about the importance of kind of putting this in place to protect your permit and to kind of govern and give some direction to these industries when they were inquiring about what they could discharge. So what we are here for tonight, obviously, is the ordinance. There's track changes, so there's a marked up copy of that here. I will also say that there are permits associated with this. Once this new ordinance goes into place, those permits will be issued. There currently are, I believe, 3 industries in Columbus we've met with. We've got testing results, and we've worked with them to establish these limits and permits. Those permits aren't issued yet, but the intent would be that once the ordinance is adopted, we would proceed with issuing those permits. We're also working with Fall River. I believe they have a couple candidates up there that also might apply to this once the ordinance is adopted, so then they would be moving forward with issuing permits for their industries as well. So with the ordinance, we did include some updates to this ordinance, and I will say that in your packet, I did just kind of skim through this again one last time, and it appears that there are 4 Board of Public Works references that we're also going to update. So the idea here was that if we're going to update the ordinance, there's a few definitions that we added and included, maybe that aren't necessarily identifiable as high strength, but are good definitions that help strengthen the ordinance. We'll correct those Board of Public Works references. And then as part of that, we inserted the information for the industrial permit, which is kind of the meat of this ordinance, which occurs more towards the back of this update. So that's it. That's all I have. The technical piece, if you have anything specifically about some of this, Taryn has worked very closely with staff. Paul Johnson's reviewed the ordinance, the city attorney, a couple different times, I believe, as well. And so we've kind of had a bunch of eyes on this over the last year, and we kind of felt like we're getting pretty close to kind of wrapping this up. We understand it's a process. We have to go through a couple meetings and, for ordinance adoptions. But at this point, we feel like the timing was good to bring it here and at least introduce it and see if anybody had any questions tonight. If I can't answer it or somebody else can't, we're more than happy to do a little bit of digging and hopefully get some additional information for you to help you review the ordinance. So any questions?
Alder Adams. So if I'm correct, we have 3 significant sewer users in Columbus. Is that what I'm getting from you?
Yeah, we did identify three businesses that would be affected by this ordinance change. And they've all been very gracious about working with the city, and they're very aware of that. Most of them have their own requirements through the state that they are required to meet anyways. And so it's just a matter of kind of going back and making a formal process for us to document that as well. Those permits will be obviously reviewed during process changes and other things that may occur in those industries, but as of now, we do have, I believe, 3 that we've identified.
Okay. Who is going to do the monitoring, sampling, and testing? That wasn't quite clear when I read it.
Okay. I think I'll probably defer to Taryn. Are you available? Did you get that question? Did you want to handle that?
Could you repeat the question?
Who is going to be doing the monitoring, sampling, and testing? That wasn't quite clear in what I read.
The sampling and metering and sampling is the responsibility of the industry. It's we have a schedule within the permits on how often they have to do the testing and metering. Most of the metering, like one of the industries that we're looking at is really performed almost regularly every day, but the testing will be probably maybe quarterly initially or semi-annually initially, and then probably match their state requirements.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the industries that are affected are going to be doing they're going to be doing their own testing?
They have to use qualified laboratories, and the
Okay.
results have to be submitted to John Namer and the city for review.
Okay, so they're sending the samples out.
Well, let me clarify one more thing. I don't want to put it a burden on your other users in the system for them to pay for pollutant testing when they're not affected. So we basically have the basic requirements of metering and sampling on the industry, but you have the rights as in the as authorized party, municipality, to do any testing, go into their facility and do any testing you want to verify the quality, the pollutant loadings from the facilities. Right now, I don't foresee that John's going to have problems at the plant with pollutants, but this is a control that really came out from one of the industries just asking him, what can I discharge? And so it's a clarification to everyone, and this program is very standard across Wisconsin municipalities that have industries like you have.
Okay. Okay, so sorry about this. I got a few more questions. All right, so if I'm reading this correctly, the significant sewer users must build a vault with an accessible manhole. After that, the city comes around and determines whether it is acceptable or not. And if it's not deemed accessible, the significant sewer users must build another one. So I'm thinking there should be a way that the city and the significant sewer users should be able to get on board at the same time and figure out a prior proper location, build it right the first time, and then just be done with it. I think that would be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think what the intent of the ordinance is to have kind of a fallback position where the city has some authority to go in and do something if it isn't constructed the way it was reviewed and approved. I mean, whenever there's a site plan or a construction process in the city, we'll typically, from a site civil standpoint, review that work anyways. So our intent would be to work with the industries, and they've been very good so far, to do just that, to make sure that we're putting forth a project that's not going to be burdensome to them either. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it is intended to be that way.
Yeah, I just want to do a discount
Yeah.
double check. Just the
Absolutely.
verbiage of how that read, I was just like,
Yeah, I think that's kind of the fallback plan B if there is something. It's not uncommon for us to approve something with a site and then have it built slightly different when we go out and do an inspection, and that gives us the authority to, you know,
okay.
go back and have that corrected.
All right, well, thank you very much. And what was his name?
Taryn.
Thank you, Taryn.
You're very welcome.
Okay, sounds like,
Oh,
or,
we
I'm
had-
sorry, Trina,
No
go ahead.
problem. Oh, I guess I was kind of thinking of smaller users such as restaurants, when there's reference here about floatable oils and needing to make sure food garbage is fully shredded enough to flow freely.
Yeah, I don't know, Taryn, did you hear that question? It was just referencing restaurant contributions to things like floatable oils and other components that may be affecting the system. This was intended to be strictly for industries initially. How do we handle that specifically, do you know, with our current ordinance with the restaurants?
Well, the ordinance, it sort of forces the restaurants to put in adequate grease interceptors, but that's a program that communities are getting more and more proactive with. You know, we hate to be anti-growth, anti-business type of, ordinance development, but it's something that we should be striving for in regulating in the restaurants. Because I believe that, unless John can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the ordinance has always had the requirements that certain things are not discharged into the sewer. Fats, oils, and greases is one of the things, and there's actually a limit on fats, oils, And it's just critical, and most places are pretty, careful on those things. If one has any issues, you have the ordinance to fall back on. If John and his staff have extensive cleaning requirements out in the sewer system, they have the ordinance to go to the user, to go to the restaurant and make sure that their grease interceptors in working order, and you can make them make corrections on their grease interceptors.
And I'll kind of expand on that maybe just a second too. I know that it's not just restaurants, but, say when the new Ford dealership went in, we required them to have grease and oil control, to have a tank put in. And so on the site plan approvals, we've been very proactive over the past probably 10 years with, Ottery is another example of, their truck wash facility. They have multiple tanks in place to help catch and separate that. Those won't be people that'll hold permits, but we're still holding them to standards where they do have to comply with and remove those type of things. I know there's a list floating around that we created a couple years back that was, to the best of our knowledge, all of the staff who have been here over the years in Columbus identified all of the commercial facilities who have those type of grease and oil traps, and so we have documentation of that as well. And so I know that's one thing that we've been working on, and I believe even at one point we had a letter that we had drafted that was, I don't know if it was sent out or distributed in a certain way, but it was just reminding people that they have a responsibility to maintain those facilities too. So again, this is more focused towards the larger industries, but we do have that control and we are monitoring that in place. So.
Good questions. Is there any further questions from council for Jason or for Tylen at this time? Are we okay, I guess, moving this forward to the regular meeting to be adopted and approved? I don't see any further questions.
No, I just think
Okay, if there are no further questions, I suppose we can move that forward. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, and we'll make those Board of Public Works corrections for the next meeting. Just
Okay.
remind everybody when we get there that we made that change, so it'll be a different looking document, but I appreciate that. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to get a hold of staff or me, and we'll hopefully get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful, thank you.
Have a good night. Number 8 is consider Resolution 11-20, Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, also called the CMAR report from 2019 of the wastewater treatment plant. We have John Namer from the wastewater treatment plant with us via Zoom call. John, would you like to head this off?
Yes, it's essentially a report card on the operation and maintenance and the financial stability of the utility. You can see by the letter grades, it kind of mimics a report card in a sense, and requires a council resolution to be adopted to submit to the DNR. There's many sections to it. There's loadings, collection system, finance, sludge management, several other sections on discharges, flows, many other things, some explanations of how you operate your plant, things like that. But each section has a grade point, and as you can see at the end, and everybody's pretty proud of that, and everybody should be commended. And their grade points are A's, so it's I think operated and maintained in a good manner. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Any questions for John? Seen a lot of no's. Oh, Trina,
no,
there
not
you
a
go.
question. Just wonderful to see all of those, to see the straight A's. Very impressive. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, that wasn't the case in school, but.
Okay, thank you very much, John.
Certainly.
And then do we need to move that forward, Kyle, to the next regular meeting?
It has to be adopted
Okay, so we'll move that forward to the next meeting to be adopted by resolution. Thanks, John, again.
You're welcome.
Good news.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9. Let's consider Wisconsin Elections Commission or the CARES sub-grant application. I think, so Pat Gable does a lot of work with our elections, our city clerk, Pat Gable, and she's going to talk about this new CARES sub-grant that we are applying for.
Thank you, Katie. We were given some information about, not quite a month ago, a distribution of money to municipalities to help offset costs, either already incurred or unbudgeted costs that could come up in the next 2 elections. Each municipality, excuse me, will be given $200 plus $1.10 for each registered voter as of June 1st. The city of Columbus had 3,161 registered voters as of June 1st, so the estimated money we would receive would be about $3,600. This is not a match sub-grant. It's federal money that came down through to the states, each state, and distributed that way. So there is no match. In order to receive the money, we would have to submit an agreement saying that yes, we would like to receive the money. Any money not spent, we would have to return to the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
Okay.
During the April election, we saw over 1,400 absentee ballots, which is for us unheard of. It was just an incredible thing to deal with. And between people working and the postage alone this money would easily cover that. So with 2 more elections, especially in November, we expect a very, very high turnout for absentees. I wouldn't see any problem spending this money. So.
I was very happy to see that there was that this is included in the CARES Act and that we have the ability to apply for that, because I also thought about just how much postage. That's a lot of postage that communities aren't necessarily really prepared for, or couldn't have been prepared for it for the last time around with the unforeseen
especially for one election.
So so in one election, so I was very excited to see that there was some help on that front as far as money to help cover that.
So there are a couple of deadlines that need to be met. We need to let them know by September 1st if we want to participate, and then there's reporting that I have to do in September and December before and after the elections.
Okay. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Pat. Any questions from council? Okay, I think we've got consensus then to just move that forward. Does that need to just be moved forward to the next meeting? Okay, and for approval. Thank you very much. Now we're here at number 10, which is discuss the 2021 budget goals and priorities. In the regular meeting this evening, we approved our process for the budget meetings and whatnot, but City Administrator Kyle thought it was important that we each kind of get a chance to discuss the different goals or priorities that we want to see within the budget process for next year. And I understand we have some newer members here, but I think just being able to, state what's important, and I think Kyle has a couple of things that he wanted to mention initially as well.
Yes, thank you. Maybe to start off with, the mayor did include an email. I think we gave a copy to everyone. Ian, I'll send a copy to you, but I'll give a synopsis here to kind of give a framework of what the mayor wanted to share in his absence about what his observations are with the budget goals for next year. And basically, he started off with noting that 2020 has just been kind of an incredible year, and a reminder that things can change pretty radically, pretty quickly. And the budgets are how we have the resources to remain nimble, and we want to maintain that flexibility. Earlier in the year, we used a lot of our undesignated fund balance and approved a substantial capital improvement fund budget amendment. And we accomplished a lot of things with that. But what that means is that that gives us probably less flexibility moving forward into the next budget year and probably the next few years. Also, with the uncertainty of COVID-19, we don't really understand fully yet what the state impact is going to be on shared revenues, transportation aids. So there's a lot of unknowns right now. The mayor highlighted in his email that one of the main priorities that he would suggest would be to focus on employee wages and benefits, and to make sure we can retain and attract the highest quality employees we can. And he alluded to, as we stack up against competing communities, that's been a concern potentially over years on how competitive we are compared to other similar communities or nearby larger communities. And then he also just kind of capped it off with mentioning that we have the 2050 roadmap that we're going to be dealing with, and that's going to involve a substantial commitment of capital resources. And so we have to be kind of mindful as we go through this budget that we reserve our capacity there as we move into the coming years to actually achieve some of those 2050 goals. And so, sort of just a reminder that if that's truly what we're going to be pursuing, everything we do in this budget could lead us to a situation where we don't have the flexibility to move forward with it. So those were just his thoughts that he shared, and I have the email with all his full comments. And so I anticipate this is more of a ongoing conversation to some extent to help give me some perspective on what each of you thinks is a priority that you'd like to see highlighted in the budget. And as I talk about the priorities, we talked about wages, but it could be reductions or expansions in programs or services. It could be a particular project or a study that we might need to do or undertake. Road work, stormwater work, levy increases or levy decreases. All of those things are on the table as a policy decision for the city council. And there could be a decision just to try to maintain as much of a status quo position as we can until we really figure out how COVID-19 is going to impact us this year and next year and in the coming years. As well as, maybe we want to focus on building capacity for future debt obligations and future capital expenditures, like the Roadmap 2050. So, now's the time when, as I start working through the budget in the next year, or in the next month for next year, anything you can share about priorities you'd like to see addressed would be good, and at some point we'll have to get consensus on how those rank and sort of what comes to the top and what maybe we can't achieve. But it's really, these are policy decisions. I just need a little feedback on how to put those policy preferences into the draft budget you'll receive in a few months.
Ian?
Yeah, and much of what the mayor said, I haven't seen his email yet, but from the synopsis, I do echo. One of my primary concerns, as the veterans on council know, is of course stormwater, and including the dam. I would like to see a study done on the dam to see the impact of it remaining or being removed, as well as the rest of the stormwater throughout the city. As our climate is changing, we will likely see more flooding, and I think it would be prudent of us to start taking action now.
Thanks, Ian. Pete Adams?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess I'm still on. So my first question is for next year's budget, what is the budget goal for the 2050 project?
So that has yet to be determined. That's sort of a workshop that I think the council needs to go through yet. Okay. We have the preliminary results from the consultant. Now I think we need to kind of take hold of it and understand it and massage it into what the council needs it to be and how it fits into, what you expect for, future tax rates and borrowing and even priorities among the projects. So there could be zero commitment next year to the 2050 project, or there could be significant ones. So that's all yet to be determined. It's a little bit early in the process where we don't even know exactly what our levy will be for next year because we don't have a lot of the state numbers. So at this point, it's sort of nothing that you discuss or identify as a priority is really off the table.
Okay.
Everything, if you have something that you think would be a good priority, I think it's fine at this stage to throw it out there. Now, at the end of the day, I don't know that it's going to remain on the list up to the point that we can fund. But if it's a serious consideration for you, I think it's worth mentioning.
Okay, well, in that case, so as we know with COVID, children were sent home, and they were home for the latter part of the school year last year. And one of the things that I've been reading throughout the country is some of the kids don't have access to the internet. So I don't know if there's a way that we can have like a citywide broadband. It's just something, because if this COVID continues, my hope is, and my guess is by next fall we'll be okay. But if not, that might be something to look into. And then last but not least, are you familiar with the Moving America Forward Act? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is an if-then proposition, because right now it's going to stall, and if it's going to pass, it's going to be early next year. So if it passes, then there's a metric ton of money for renewable energy and all sorts of projects, and it goes towards daycare centers, schools. And there's one other one that I forgot. But it might not be a half bad idea if we can look into that for, say, getting our schools environmentally friendly, getting the daycare centers environmentally friendly, and even like solar projects around. But again, that's an if-then scenario, and I'm assuming that because it's a federal program, I don't think there would be a match, but don't quote me on that. The act hasn't passed yet. And I am done.
Any, Trina?
Oh, gosh, I suppose my main goal at this point is to be cautious and to hold services as steady as possible. There's so many, many things I want to do and I'd hope to do and hope to get started, but at this point, I just don't see things as being very feasible for taking too many risks. And another year might be very different. I hope it's very different.
I just wanted to echo, I do think stormwater is a priority. As Ian suggested, I agree. I think we should dive in, and I know that we completed some dredging of the creek and some other projects this year, but I think, just maybe continuing on that path and doing what we can to help the stormwater. That was one of my suggestions. As well as echoing the mayor's, I know that we've talked several times about potentially doing, whether it's a wage study or some format of evaluating city employees and that. So, and making sure that, I guess, we're offering wages and there's not a lot of discrepancies, I guess, between employees, as some are new, some have been here for years, and kind of just wrangling in that whole thing to make a little bit more uniformed wage tree. I don't, but I don't know what to call it. Pete.
I just want to piggyback on what you and Ian were talking about, and I'm going to bring it back to the moving America forward. So again, I believe that is something that would be covered in that. It's just a question of applying and getting the money for it. So that might be something where the city doesn't really have to expend anything, and maybe we can get the feds to help us out with that.
So I guess I have a question on the moving America forward. You said it wouldn't be approved until December?
It's a bill that passed the House of Representatives right
Sure.
now, and it's in the Senate where it's probably going to sit idle until the election. And then at the
If and
earliest, it would be like early next year where it will get approved. And then after that, it's just a question of how much is allotted to each state. And there's like formulas, I read through it, and there's just like formulas for every state based on all these contingency factors. But I know there is just a metric ton of money for projects like this.
I guess my only thought is that unfortunately with our budget process, we have to pretty much have it completed by December. And then so anything has to be covered then in that budget. And regardless of whether we, that did pass and we could get that money back, I think it needs to be prepared for in advance. Yeah, but yes.
No, it's more of like I don't mean to put this in the budget. No, this is just like, if you're talking, my apologies, I'm not clear. So it's not meant to be put in the budget, but something to keep in your back pocket so that, if it does come about and if we can get it, then if you thought about doing these projects, we have the money there for, or we potentially could have the money there for it. Again, we probably have to approve the grant process next year, but it's there.
Okay.
My apologies for not being clear.
Thank you. Mike McCabe.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any major projects or anything, but I'd also just like to reiterate, maybe just to steady the ship forward. I agree with a lot of what the Mayor Tome's email expressed also. But in regards to the stormwater study, if we do that, what I would also like to see is maybe talk to other municipalities that have already done this. And I know there's some maybe in the Baraboo area. There was some dams removed up above them. And just to talk to other towns that have already gone through this and ask them how it went after they did remove the dam.
Okay. Ian.
And going back to the government and the city employees and things and trying to be more competitive, one thought in harking back to my military days and ranking, even the civilian employees had GS ranks. Maybe we could have like CS ranks or something, and it could maybe equalize things out. We could determine what level you need to be for different positions and rank people and then pay them based on a rank, and it would be a lot easier and keep it competitive and fair across the board.
Okay. Kyle, anything else? or-
Not really. I think
Okay.
these are some good things just to kind of put on paper as like a starting point. And as we get more and more information, I think we'll have more discussions about what's feasible and not. But if anything comes up as you think about it more, feel free to just send me an email and communicate it directly to me. And I'll start compiling those. And I think we'll have more conversations about the budget as we get more information. But this is one of the things that's going to help me start formulating it.
I appreciate this. Yeah, I think that's helpful. So any other questions, comments, or not questions, rather, but suggestions, comments? Are we okay to move forward? Okay, thanks, Kyle. Move on to number 11, discuss public contact details for elected officials. Kyle is going to head this off for us as well.
Yeah, so just to kick it off, as many of you know, we've had an increase of public contact related to the city and the elected officials. And it or about two Wednesdays ago, was a pretty busy day at the front desks and everyone that's on the phone tree, answering a lot of phone calls and trying to direct them to the elected officials to either get questions answered or share opinions and viewpoints. And one of the things that became clear was that it's not the same for all of the elected officials. Some people have their phone number listed, other people didn't have a phone number listed, and that led to some confusion in the office. And really, there I think was maybe a historical practice of always listing contact information so that constituents could call you. And I don't know exactly, when that changed, but we did get at least one citizen that reached out and said, "Why isn't there a phone number? There used to be a phone number. Now there's no phone number." And so I think it was worth at least a discussion to figure out if the council itself had a perspective on what is the expectation for the amount of contact information that you share on the website for constituents to reach out.
So, thank you, Kyle. I just wanted to chime in and say, so after that citizen reached out and asked about the phone numbers, I went on the website where I found there are only 2 council members, not including the mayor, obviously, but 2 council members, myself and Trina, that have phone numbers listed currently. Pete, you obviously get a pass. It's your first day. But I was disappointed myself, just because I do think it's important that, people can reach us and people can voice their opinions. And, not every citizen utilizes email. There's a whole population of, not all elderly people. Some elderly people love email, but, some don't feel comfortable with it. And I feel that my opinion is, I feel that it's unfair for those not being able to reach you. And maybe there's just some situations that aren't appropriate for email as well, or people don't feel that it's appropriate. And I realize that events like that may happen again, where we're going to have an influx of people wanting to share their opinion or asking questions all at one time. But those events are very few and far in between, typically. And I think that my thought is that we shouldn't be pushing that onto then city staff and having the phones ringing here all day with them having nowhere to go and not being responsible for any decision that had been made, whether, this person calling was for, against, just wanted to share an opinion, just doesn't matter. I guess that's my opinion. They should be able to call us directly and not have to go through City Hall and inconvenience everybody that works here because of something that we had an opinion on. But that is my perception. Mike McCabe.
Yeah, in regards to the phone, I agree. I know when myself and Alder Piperone got on at the same time, we both got phones and gave the numbers to the city to put on the website. I don't know what happened after that.
Okay, thank you for that update. And I wasn't sure, those were the only 2 that I saw on there. Ian.
So I did have my number listed, but the day after the council decided to remove the statue, I had spent a grand total of 147 minutes on the phone by noon and had received over 20 phone calls already. I was not able to operate my own business or do anything but receive phone calls. I did have my phone number listed because I do personally believe it is our citizens' rights to be able to reach us as much as possible, and I would like that to be possible. Perhaps we could each create a Google phone number so that we know when It's a citizen reaching out as opposed to someone else. Like myself in my business, I have to answer my phone 24/7. Otherwise, I could be missing out on a sizable income. So when I am missing calls for my business because I'm on the phone all day, that's just not, it's not a way that I can operate and stay viable.
Thank you, Ian. Pete Adams.
So I think I think we can get a compromise in here if you guys will hear me out just for a minute. So we get a $50 a month stipend, or however you want to say it. So how about instead of using our own phones for city work, we, for the low price of $29.99, get LG Rebel 4, have the city have that come out of the $50, and then whatever, I'm not aware of what plans are available, but have the city, we'll come up with a plan for all 6 phones, and then it's just a district phone. So I'm District 3, so if or when I eventually move on, the District 3 phone comes back and goes to the next District 3 person. That way you can keep your personal and your city business separate, and then you'll be able to kind of figure out what's going on there. Just a thought.
Any further thoughts? Trina?
Well, no, I definitely agree that it's important for constituents to be able to reach us by phone. I mean, I am debating on getting a second phone, just something very cheap. See some things for, $19.99 for the phone, and another either $14 or $20 a month. So that's something to consider out of the allowance given that might solve some issues.
I'd like to hear, Ian, I don't know much about a Google phone number. Does that just transfer to your regular cell phone?
Right, you can set up a Google phone number and have it transferred to your phone, but you will know when someone's calling that number, or if they're just calling your regular phone. It'll show up different when it rings on your phone.
Sure.
And that's free, there is no cost.
And I think it just depends on whether you're comfortable using your regular city phone or your regular phone for city. I know that some have elected to purchase a phone that was specifically for city use, and that's okay too. But I think either option is decent, or if you're just okay with listing your regular phone number, that is fine too. But I think what we're trying to ask here is that moving forward, what is the consensus of council? What is the standard that we want to set as far as contact information that's provided on the website? Because currently, right now, it's kind of a little bit of everything. And I realize there's maybe not been some updates, as McCabe had said, to the website. But regardless, what do we think should all be listed there? Name, phone number, address. What do we think as a body, I guess, should be acceptable?
Well, I'm thinking everybody, just from the general discussion, believes that, the people should be able to give us a call, and should be able to give us an email. It's just a question of separating the personal from the private from time to time. And I wasn't aware of the Google phone thing, and that sounds great. I'm just an old guy. I don't know technology, but if it's free and you can separate it out, that's fine. As far as addresses, I mean, it's a small town. People can figure out where you live anyways. So
Yeah, I don't know, but the address thing has kind of always thrown me off. Like, I don't, it is a little strange, but it was, right, so that was just mail. So I guess, is that an outdated thing that we need to continue to provide? Or are we gonna, in the situation of a couple weeks ago, when I was getting phone calls from all over the country, having my address also posted on there is kind of strange. I don't know. I haven't received any hate mail yet or suspicious packages. However, that I guess made me a little bit more uncomfortable than a phone, number.
So would it just be sufficient just for the phone number and the email then?
That's the question.
I mean, I'm good either way, but if it makes people uncomfortable putting their addresses on there, if it makes one person uncomfortable, so I'll follow suit.
I think we should, obviously, you have to continue to list your district. So, I mean, where you live in that district and, shouldn't necessarily matter. Trina, I think you're first.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would very much prefer to remove the address. I know it's not something that's difficult for someone interested to look up, but I really don't feel comfortable just having it blaring out there on the website.
Okay. Mike McCabe?
Yeah, I'm good with the phone and email. I don't necessarily need my address on there. If I could take it off, I probably would.
Okay. Ian, do you have any strong feelings about address listing?
Honestly, for me, it doesn't make a difference. I don't know if there are very many people in town that don't know my address anyway or where I live, so it's really not consequential.
Sure. And I agree. I pretty much, I think I live in a fishbowl, but I guess in situations like a couple weeks ago, you just have a lot of more national, I guess, attention that seems bizarre to have it listed. Okay, Kyle?
So what I'm hearing for consensus is listing your phone and your email, the email being the city email. There was a couple things mentioned. Are you looking for information back next time for consideration on Google numbers, group phone plans where the district gets a phone issued? Wondering if there's any follow-up you're looking for from staff.
Ian?
I think the least expensive and easiest route is if there were 7 Google phone numbers assigned, one for each council member and the mayor, and they could survive the council member then and be forwarded to the next council member, and the phone number would never change. And it could just be forwarded to your regular phone number. You can set hours on it, so it only rings during certain times. It's practical and efficient.
Do we get to choose the phone number that way then too, or or could it be like in a sequence, like?
Right, as long as the sequence is available.
I guess for me, I kind of like that idea, just making it a little bit more streamlined for the community. As you're like, okay, what's the phone number for District 1? That I actually really like that idea. Regardless of whether you use your personal or you use a different device, I think that's an excellent idea to keep it uniform. Thanks for that. Pete, you had your light on. Did you have something? Okay.
I had no idea how to do the Google thing.
Sure.
I was gonna be like, oh, you need to figure that out.
Okay. Mike McCabe.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, I think I've never heard of the Google thing, but I like the idea because if I can get rid of my burner phone, I'd love to.
Okay. So I guess, do we want Kyle just to kind of look into that and bring something back to discuss at a future committee of the whole?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is that okay, Kyle? Just look into like the kind of the Google number and sequencing and, okay, perfect. And then also if we could remove the addresses, is everybody okay with that? Just so Kyle's got clear direction, so we're removing addresses. We're going to look into the sequencing of the Google numbers, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
go
guess,
ahead.
and also maybe look into how the website's updated, who does it. I don't know who does it.
I believe it's Lisa's the media coordinator.
But I know I gave my phone number because they were just updating it and they were supposed to put everything new in there, but I never, obviously got missed over.
Yeah, I am not sure. Might be, I was on my phone too, and sometimes the website is different on your phone than it is on, but I am not sure. There could be a multitude of different reasons, but I guess Yeah, I'm really happy that we had this discussion. Thanks, everybody. Okay. With that, number 12 is to convene to a closed session pursuant to state statute or 19.85 sub 1 sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data for any public employee over the governmental body has, or of which over the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Discuss Columbus Police Local WPPA number 237 bargaining agreement, as well as the compensation for general employees. We do have another closed session item on the agenda this evening, and we will not be returning to the air thereafter. So thank you and have a great night. Oh, we'll do the roll call into, all right, so.
Alder Gray moves
Thank you.
to go to closed session.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to go into closed session for the reasons read. All those in favor, or do the roll call?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. We are now in closed session.